card for my granddaughter to give a friend for a birthday party that's coming up. He's really into Pokemon, so I thought maybe I would make a shaped card in the shape of an actual Pokeball. Who knows how close my measurements will be, but we're going to give it a shot. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here to blank canvas. And then since this card is going to be round, we're going to need to add some round shapes. So I'm going to start with that. And I think I want to make this card probably about 5 inches. So I'm going to go up here to the top where it says size. And I'm going to type 5. Oops, no, I'm not. I'm going to type a 6 because I can't read. 5. And then I'm going to need a front, a back, and then I'm going to need pieces for the colors on the front of the card as well. So I'm going to right click on this circle and I'm going to duplicate it. This is going to be our second side of this circle. And then I'm going to duplicate it one more time because I might need pieces. Okay, now what I want to do with this one, I want to grab these two and I want to overlap them just a little bit. And did you notice when I was moving it, see those little kind of pink lines going across the top and bottom? That's letting me know that I'm lined up across the top, the bottom, and the center. See, if I move it, the lines disappear. So if I get it where those lines are going across the top, the bottom, and the middle, then I know I'm centered. So I think this is probably enough of an overlap. Now I'm going to select both of these, and I'm going to go down to Combine and Weld. Now that's going to be our basic card base. Okay, now this piece here is going to be our front piece. There is a black band that goes through the center of the Pokeballs, so I'm going to leave this as black. And then I'm going to make layers to go at the top and the bottom. Now, as you can see over here in our shapes, we actually have a half circle, but I think what I'm going to do is what am I going to do? You know what? I'm going to duplicate this one more time. Okay, let's put this piece up over here because we're going to need that. Okay, I'm going to insert a rectangle. Now remember, if you grab the corners of your rectangle, it's going to size it proportionately. It's going to keep the same size. But if I grab it by one of these side or top handles, this acts kind of like if I had unlocked it. Oh, I should have put this in place. Let me make this a different color so I can at least see what we're doing here. Okay, now I want to make this wider than the ball. So now I'm going to have to stretch this up again. And I'm thinking probably about that big. Now I'm going to select both of these and I'm going to go up to the top and I'm going to click on Align and then I'm going to align it center. Because what I want to do here is slice this center out. Make sure they're both selected and we're going to slice. And then I'm just going to get rid of all of these extra pieces. All right, now this gives us our top and our bottom. But what I'm going to do, because I need this to be in different colors, I'm going to duplicate it again. And that way I'll have a top and a bottom. Oh, wait, no, I'm not. Let me delete that. I need to do one more thing first. Okay, a Pokeball has a center ring in it. So let's get this circle and let's size it to about what I think it should be. I'm thinking... And notice how I now have crosshairs in pink. That means that I'm in the dead center of this shape. I think I'm going to go just a tiny bit bigger. Okay, and just to be sure, I'm going to go back up to Align and I'm going to center. Now I'm going to slice again because I need to do this while this is technically considered one piece. Okay, now we'll get rid of all this. All right, now I'm going to duplicate this again. Now notice, before I right-clicked, but you can also go down here to this little plus, and that will also duplicate. Now I'm going to use contour. We're going to take this one, and I'm going to contour out the bottom and make it go away. Notice how when I was hovering over it, it was green. If it's green and I click on it, it'll make it go away. And don't forget to hit apply. If you don't hit apply, it won't stay. Now I'm going to do the same thing to this one, except I'm going to get rid of this upper part, and I'm going to hit apply. Okay, now I've got this in two pieces, right? Okay, so the top of our Pokeball needs to be red, and the bottom of our Pokeball is supposed to be white. Now let's bring our other shape in here. See, now you can kind of get a better idea. When I go to assemble this card, oops, well, that clearly moved out of line. I'm going to line these up so that they're covering the front, and I'll just glue them on. But now we should also have a small white button that goes in the middle. So now I need to, oh, that's a little bit too big. That looks, oh, no, that still looks just a tiny bit too big. Let's go just a smidge smaller. I think I might have actually made this line down the center a tiny bit too big, but that's okay. It's going to a 7-year-old. I don't think he'll notice. Okay, now on this center button, not only do we have this white piece, but there should be another white piece on top of it. And I'm going to use a foam dot under it to give it some extra height. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here to Effects, and I'm going to choose Offset, because I need to make the centerpiece even smaller. So I'm going to drag it over here to the left. So instead of making an offset that's bigger, I'm going to make an offset that is smaller. And I'm going to go to about, oh, that might have been a bit much, right there. And I'm going to hit Apply. Now this piece also needs to be white. And remember, this will be set up on a foam dot, so it'll give it some added height. So what we're going to do is we're going to have this back piece, and it'll obviously fold in half, and then we're going to assemble this front piece and just glue it to the front of the card. I could just glue it to the front of the card and not do this extra piece of black, but what's going to happen here, because I'm folding it, is this one spot is going to have an ever so slight flat edge on it, and I want to make sure I keep my circle, so that's why I'm doing a whole extra set of layers. Now I also need to go up here, and I need to change my machine. I'm just going to tell it it's a maker. And the reason I need to do that is because I need to be able to add a score line. And you can't do that if you're using a Joy. Well, if you're using a Joy Extra. The new Joy 2 does have the option to score, which is amazing. Now, if you are working with a Joy Extra or an original Joy, you could make this card and just change that score line to a foil line, so you can kind of trick it into doing it. Now I'm going to align this in the center, and I'm going to attach that. Because this is black, you can't see it, but there is a score line in there. Okay, now we've got all of our basic pieces. I'm going to go up and save so I don't lose this. I should have saved a long time ago. Do as I say, not as I do. Save often. Okay, now we need to add some text. We are going to say, happy birthday. And let's see. Okay, so we're going to do happy birthday. And this particular child has a bit of an odd name, so it'll be really cool for him to have a birthday card that has his actual name as part of it. And then we're going to do from Luna. Okay, now we're going to do this as writing, so I'm just going to kind of leave that as it is. I'm going to go up here to where it says regular, and I'm going to change that to writing. I know this is bubble letters. The Cricut Sans font is currently having a little hiccup, but it doesn't matter because I'm not going to use that font anyway. Now, these children are between the ages of 6 and 8, which of course means they don't know cursive yet. So let's see if we can go find a printed font. How's this one? Ooh, that's almost cursive. Let's not do that one. How about this one? No, I don't really like that one either. Okay, let's change this to writing. And it's for a boy, so I don't want to make it too fancy. And I'm going to use one of our, that's not what I need. I need to click the box next to the font. I want to use one of our acrylic gel pens. But I think what I'm going to have to do is just tell it it's gel and then put the pen in that I want to use. And we're just going to tell it it's silver so I can see what it looks like. Okay, I actually like this font, but I think... All right, let's move it out here where I can see what I'm doing. Okay, let's do that so I can make it bigger. Now notice if you're not real careful when you're clicking on a font, like if you just click in the middle of the box, it'll move the object behind it. Now because I have this big piece, I can't just tell it to center this, so I kind of got to eyeball it. I don't know, I think I like that. And then the pen I'm going to use is the acrylic gel pen, but I'm going to use the blue one because it looks really nice on black. So this is how the card is basically designed. Let's go save again. I am going to go cut this card out, and then I will be back to show you the assembly. Okay, so since this is going to be such a quick card to cut out, I'm going to go ahead and cut it out on camera too. I have selected my materials. The first piece that's going to be cut is going to be the white piece. And I have double checked, and this piece of scrap should be perfect. So we're going to use that. And one of the things that I love about the new Cricut Explorer 5, well, you can't see it because my cup's in the way, is that it's got load and go. So when I put my mat up here and I get it lined up under my tabs on the sides, I just hit the play button. It will grab my mat and it will immediately start cutting. I don't have to go back and hit the play button again or any of that. It just goes. I didn't stick that very well. And then we just hit eject. Great use of a piece of scrap paper. I'm just going to gently pull my pieces off and try not to bend them. You can just bend your mat to make your pieces pop loose. Okay, then I'm going to flip my mat around. I like to flip my mats around so that I use both sides. I'm going to line up my black piece. That one is next. I am using all Cricut cardstock for this. This is the Cricut 80-pound textured stock. And let's see. Oh, it wants me to also add my pen. So I'm going to grab my pen and I'm going to scribble a little bit just to make sure that it writes before I put it in the machine. Now with the Explorer 5, this pen needs to push in far enough that you hear it click. It makes a very audible click. If you don't hear that, you don't have it inserted. Then I'm going to, once again, line my mat up under the guides and hit the play button. It shouldn't be cutting down here, so if this lifts up, it shouldn't be a problem. Now I did with these opaque type pins, sometimes they skip. These new pins I've had great luck with and they haven't skipped, but just in case, when I did my text, I doubled my text and centered them on top of each other and attached them so it'll actually draw twice. That should help save me if it does happen to skip so that I don't end up having to start over. Okay, now it's telling me to remove my pen. And then I am supposed to load my scoring stylus. This is the scoring stylus for the Explorer series, the new Explorer series. And then we're going to hit play again. Well, that was fast. Okay, and then it wants the blade back in. I just make sure that I drop my blade until it stops to make sure that it's all the way in. And we're going to hit the play button again. Okay, we're going to unload. This was probably our biggest and longest piece. And I'm pulling kind of gently on the actual pieces that I'm using because I don't want to accidentally bend them. And this is a fairly new mat, so it's pretty sticky. Okay, now as you can see, by folding my mat, my paper pretty much all but came off all on its own. Okay, now I'm going to flip my mat around again. And now I'm going to put on my red piece. This piece is, no, I can't quite get away with that. Now, if this mat was a little more used, I would probably use my brayer just to ensure that it was stuck down well. But because this mat's pretty new, that won't be a problem. Okay, now we should be done cutting. And always, always, always put your cover right back on your mat. It will help keep it clean and will help it last longer. And as you can see, I have a little sticker on mine. That helps me find it when I inevitably drop it on the floor so that I don't step on it. I'll put everything away and I will close up my machine. And we will now tell Design Space that we're done. Okay, these are our pieces. Let me change our camera angle. Okay, you should be pretty squared up there. Okay, and then I'm going to bring out my precision glue press. I'm currently using Nuvo's Deluxe Glue in the My Sweet Petunia glue press. I love this thing. It makes it so much easier on my hands. Okay, and I'm going to grab my bone folder. Now we're going to presume that our score line is in the center, but just in case, I'm going to kind of help guide it. Okay, so now you can see what I mean about how we have a flat edge. Well, because I made this extra piece that I'm going to glue on the front, we won't see that flat edge. We just have to make sure that we glue this on straight, which, well, if you know me, you know that the likelihood of that happening could be pretty slim. Okay, so let's see. Let's do our red piece first. At this stage, it doesn't really matter which piece you glue on first, and you can't really do it wrong because you can always just flip your circle around. Now, I made this to fit exactly, so there's not going to be a border around the edge, so you just want to make sure that you are lined up against this edge. And I got a tiny bit of glue right here, so I'm just going to wipe that off with my fingernail. Okay, now I'm going to do my white piece. And there very well may be a card just like this in Design Space already. I didn't actually look. I thought this would make a kind of neat tutorial to give you an idea of some things that you could make on your own. Just using basic shapes in Design Space. So with the exception of the font that I used, if you choose to make this card, I will put a link down in the description so that you can open this directly in Design Space. If you decide to make this card and you use a different font, this card would be completely free even without Cricut access. Okay, now this is where we see if I have any skill. Probably not. Oh, well, you know what? I'm going to call that good. I'm just going to be happy with that. Okay, now I need to get, nope, that's not them. I need to get down my little box that I keep my foam dots in. And that's white, so I'm going to make sure I use white dots. This will work. Now this paper has more of a texture on one side than it does the other, and since I put the texture side facing up on all the rest, I want to make sure I do the same thing here. Now this piece might be... I'm going to grab a pair of tweezers so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, now all we have left to do is to glue this front onto this card. Now, because this edge is not round, we don't really want to glue this. We want to glue here. And that way when we place this down, well, preferably right side up, when we place this down, we don't have glue on an edge where there is no paper. Let's make sure we got it right side up. Okay, we are right side up. And it may squirt out a little bit, but I do want to make sure I get this glue pretty darn close to the edge because we want to make sure that our edges don't come apart. Okay, and here's where I am going to... What am I going to do to make sure I get this straight? Okay, I think I got it pretty straight. So there you go. How's that? Quick and easy, and you don't even need access. Hope y'all enjoyed that, and happy crafting.